All right. There we go. So we are recording this. If you don't mind, just mute your, that would be fantastic. All right. And we are now going to get started. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us. We have an incredible team of individuals who have decided to participate with us. And I'm really super excited to be here. As I said, we have over 40 individuals from across the country that are joining us on this journey today on multi-sensory stimulation therapy. Adrienne and myself will be hosting this webinar with you. We are recording this and we'll be releasing the file to you to share with individuals. It will be up on YouTube. And we are here at any time. Adrienne will be watching the chat to see if there's any questions. You can put your hands up. You received, hopefully by now, a package of information, but also specifically a pink envelope, and there was a wallpaper print of this nice fish background. Please make sure you have them accessible to you. And if you could at least put it close to you, that would be really helpful. So here we go. As I said, my name is Tracy Pepe. I am from Smelling Pink. And this is Adrienne Scanlan, and she is from About Murals. The two of us met actually at the Families Councils of Ontario Association. We had booths. We are two women-led businesses in the province of Ontario. And we started talking about my work, which is scent therapy, and her work, which is color and creatives through visuals of murals. And it was interesting because I was sharing, as I started my story from the beginning, I have done this work in a previous life for over 25 years, working with architects and interior designers, using sensory stimulation as a part of a design principle. I used to have a certified program actually for architects on how scent works within spaces, but also how sensory stimulation, where you are stimulating the eyes through color and murals, paint, images, hearing, taste, smell, and tactile. So that's how we kind of had this conversation and said, one of the questions that we both had is some of the long-term care homes that we have visited, we thought, well, we could provide some insight to how this works. You may already have some tools that you can already work with right now, and hopefully you'll go away from this program and say you have some ideas. That's our goal. We're also here to educate you about our individual services, of obviously what we do. But in the end, if we can help you as a sensory stimulation, that's something we're going to provide as well. My mouse clocks out. Sorry. There we go. So here we are. This is at IDEX, which is Canada's top design industry. They have a trade show every year. I was commissioned a few years ago to do a sensory exhibit teaching the architectural and trade industry how to utilize scent smell. So this is a gentleman here smelling the color red, hearing the color red. Over here is a young woman smelling the color orange, hearing the color orange. We had taste that was worked into the booth, tactile. And this is just an example of this type of practice. This type of work is not new. It may be new to long-term care and the practical applications, but the actual practice of this type of work has been used for many, many decades, actually, because sensory stimulation is a very valuable tool to work with, especially in design. This is another example that I was sharing with Adrienne when we were talking about smells are associated to color and how designers and architects utilize different sensory stimulations to outcome and to create input within their designs and the principles that they work. So many of you have homes that have a mural or have different sensory stimulations, but I think I'm hoping that after today, you'll see the opportunity to enhance them and to maybe put one and one together, and you will enhance the outcomes for yourselves, giving types of therapies and treatments, but also the recipients in those care. The problem that we are coming across is patient issues. There's agitation, apathy, anxiety. There's a lot of time challenges, as you all know, from group or single outcomes. And one thing Adrienne and I come across quite frequently is you all are, as staff, overwhelmed. And most of you have very busy days, and you are trying to navigate a healthcare system that we are very much aware of that is not optimizing and working at its most capacity. And so, sorry, there's just people coming in. So by creating a more meaningful and an engaging, emotional, supportive environment for residents, what we're hoping to show you is we'll increase the wellness impact, but we're going to also help you decrease implementation times. And some of the work that I do particularly is we do a lot of best practices and case reports. And we just finished with 5 homes and an accreditation for them, helping them understand the impacts of what we do with scent therapy. And so we have seen some really significant shifts and results. And so even though we are individual companies coming at this from 2 totally different approaches, we are here and we work in the same industry as you do. Sorry, my mouse always, there we go. You love technology and then you don't. There you go. Okay, so this is where we want to engage you. If we can engage you, and please bear with us, this is our first time adding smell. We threw some sound in and a visual component, and we are really hoping you're going to grasp this. So we are working with, turn your mics up because we have some water music. Get your kits out, everybody. And there should be some scent sticks inside. And put that mural, if you have that mural, put it on your table. If you don't, you can look at the screen. And I'm going to turn the sound on. Ideally, if you focus on something in the mural, smell, and this scent is actually curated from the Pacific Ocean. It has raw materials that are from the ocean, algae in particular, salt, various different unique smells. This took me a while to curate. It comes from the Pacific Ocean. And I don't know, we're hoping you can hear. There's this faint little water sound in the background. Combine all these principles. This is actually a form of sensory stimulation. And sensory stimulation is really utilizing different senses to stimulate the brain's area to increase cognition and response times. And in design therapy, this is 1 + 1 = 3. Multiple senses stimulated together, the brain's response has a greater activation, memory retention, emotional engagement, and often beyond what sense alone one sense can do. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the world of business where I came from, I'm a trained perfumer. I worked in it for many, many decades. I was responsible to scent large projects, specifically spaces. And one of the things that I learned over this time is when you're in a mall, for example, and you're walking, the marketer or the company has 3 seconds less. And that was prior to the data collected on our attention deficit because of cell phones. But you have 3 seconds within a mall with all that stimulation in the mall to grab your attention to your brand message within your store window. So if your store window is not telling a significant story or creating a sensory stimulation that is inviting, that 3 seconds dissipates. if you add other sensory stimulants, so music, tactile, smell, vibrant colors, specific colors that we know have an impact on the psychology, you now have 9 seconds, because that 9 seconds has been overstimulated within the brain. 9 seconds is a selling point. And so in the world of business, this is a huge critical component in design. That's one of the reasons why I work so much in architectural and retail design. But this is where Adrienne and I were speaking. And we were talking about, if you're doing these therapies one-on-one or in group settings with individuals, what happens if you did sensory stimulation where you were incorporating this principle? Would you be able to increase the connection and the outcomes and decrease your time implementing those programs? And so this is where the research shows up. And there's significant amount of research. And we will make sure that you will get a link to this research. And I will make sure that you know where to find it. But the research and the data on this is not new. This is something that has been going on for years. There's connections now when it comes specifically to Alzheimer's. There's specific focuses that they are working with when it comes to individuals with Parkinson's, cognitive issues. And so the sensory research is really quite interesting, and it really validates the principles of the business model into the healthcare wellness component. There we go. So multi-sensory stimulation therapy. Right now, I do scent therapy. I provide a web-based training program to homes. And my business model is we use sensory stimulation from the premise of taste and scent, tactile and smell. And in some cases, the homes are using music therapy with scent. What we know is multisensory stimulation actually calms anxiety. It can stimulate appetite. It can enhance sleep and memory. And these are the basic wellness aspects that we work with. And this is what we do with the homes, knowing that each and every one of you have different cases, different individuals, different setups. And so then there's more of a little bit of a customization, which we will get into, on how do we make this specifically for your home and what do we do to help you with that. Adrienne, why don't you talk about color and mood?
Amazing. Thank you for touching on all of your scent therapy. And Tracy talked a little bit about music therapy, and there's lots of different sensory therapies out there. But I'm here to talk about the visual senses, and specifically color and how it affects the mood. So I don't know if you do this when you decorate at home. I tend to do this. I always choose a theme word or two when I'm decorating. For example, in my office, I wanted it to feel moody and luxurious. So what I did is I paired black, white, and gold to create that moodiness and the luxurious of the office that I wanted to feel every day when I came into work. And so we know that those theme words, they are just color engaging the brain's memory center and emotional centers. And there's a lot of science around how each specific color affects mood differently. And we can use that science and research to help our residents, specifically for dementia. So it can either calm or it can arouse them. And so we'll talk about two different color palettes. So we can talk about the warm palettes, warm colored wallpaper murals. That's reds, oranges, yellows. And these colors, they energize, they create energy. So they're really good to use when you want to boost participation in activities. Really good to energize, boost alertness, and also to increase appetite, if you can believe it or not. So if you think about all of the fast food restaurants out there, most of the logos that you see are either red or orange and have little hints of yellow. And it's because They're trying to get us to eat more. And the same concept goes for our residents. Using these warm colors in wallpaper murals will help stimulate their appetite. So any wallpaper murals in these color hues are really, really good for use in activity rooms or dining rooms. Contrast that with the cooler colors, the greens and the blues, and these colors in a wallpaper mural or painted walls will reduce agitation, reduce anxiety, and it can actually increase mental focus as well. So you want to use these colors in rooms like snoozle-in rooms or bathing rooms where you're trying to reduce anxiety and agitation among your residents, and also in areas around the bedroom or areas where the residents might be hanging out near the end of the day and they're just winding down for bed. So you want to use those in areas where you're trying to evoke a peaceful feeling. Tracy, next slide.
Yeah, working. There we go.
Wonderful. So next we'll talk about contrast. And we know a lot of dementia residents have a hard time distinguishing between walls, doors, and floors that are all sort of the same color. So thinking beige walls, beige doors, white floors, it all sort of blends together for them. And they have a hard time seeing and then navigating through their home. So it makes them feel like frustrated if you can imagine being in that scenario and you can't find your way through your home. So it creates agitation. So one way to help that is by putting a contrasting wallpaper mural on the wall. It could either be just a separate color from the beiges, or it could be a very vibrant colored mural, and you put it around the home to help them navigate. So now they have something they can see and they can walk towards. So it helps reduce their frustration because they can actually navigate through. But for you guys, the staff of the homes, it actually helps reduce your redirection for them. So it's helping to alleviate some of the workload off of you guys. And lastly, we'll talk about attention restoration theory, which is just a fancy way of saying, like, I've worked really freaking hard today and I'm feeling really, really drained. And how do I make myself feel better without like downing a bottle of wine? We know our dementia residents are working hard all day. They're participating in activities. They're engaging socially with other residents and with the staff. And throughout the day, it depletes their attention and it creates fatigue. And that's what can add to their agitation later in the day. So we know there are studies out there that show that just being in nature helps to replenish attention, and it also boosts feelings of well-being. But it's not just being outside in nature. The same concept goes, and there's been a lot of science behind this. It's called biophilic design, that bringing an image of nature indoors actually creates the same effect. So you can bring a wallpaper mural into your home, and whether that's like a colorful garden scene or a serene forest or a very peaceful ocean view, it all has the same effect. Put it on the walls in rooms where residents might be using it later in the day, where you feel like they want to replenish their attention. It creates feelings of calmness, and that will help them feel better. And, the same concept, it's not just for dementia residents, it's for everybody. So it also helps the staff feel better and replenish their attention, and the families who are coming in to visit as well. So all of the science that I'm talking about today is linked in my blog, which will be linked at the end of the presentation if you want to find the science on what I just spoke about.
Well, one of the interesting things where Adrienne and I are really similar on is the premise of bringing in nature. I work with essential oils. This is not aromatherapy, so I need to kind of make sure everyone's clear with that. We use scent therapy as adding scent to an environment. But where I go with the nature is quite frequently January, February, March, April, specifically December as well. We know that is the most depressing time within long-term care homes. We know the disassociation, the aggravation, the emotional upswings really start to impact, as well as for staff members, because you're dealing with this. And this is actually a perfect time when you can bring the outdoors from a positive time into an indoor environment, knowing that there's a blizzard outside. And this is where some creativity comes into play, but definitely taking an area like this of a room that is already pre-established and moving your therapy into this, knowing specifically this is a pleasant experience when the outdoors environments are not happy or there's a lot of darkness. And the actual outdoor where your residents are not going outside for barbecues or walks, that these environments actually have much more impact, and they're seasonal for us specifically. So why do I focus on smell? Well, I have a TED Talk, and that gets into my personal story. I have a sister who's schizophrenic, who I've just moved into a long-term care home, and I have a son who's on the spectrum. And in my career of 30 years, I worked for some of the largest companies, and we focused on specifically how to utilize scent for manipulation tactics, to be totally frank with you, how to get you to spend more money, how to use it in a way where the brand benefited from a financial. And during COVID, one of the things that I realized right off the bat is our society was missed the early diagnostics of COVID, of lack of smell and lack of taste. And that opened up the door because it became an opportunity for people to start having a different conversation. And yes, many homes have scent-free policies, and those policies probably are outdated. And so this became the opportunity to talk about that not all scents are the same. I don't work with alcohols or solvents or things that do not meet the safety regulations. But I really decided about 4 years ago to set up Smelling Pink and walk away from my corporate world, because I knew I could really do some really great help and implement this program of teaching you, the therapy community, how to use scent and what it does. And part of this process, this is a wonderful testimony from Caroline, which I was really blessed to have. It's lovely that individuals acknowledge my work. Residents with scent actually reawakens the sense of smell. And that is one of the most positive things. 78.4% of the population within your homes can't smell. Your intake process, when you have a conversation with someone, it's usually, can you smell? And a lot of smell is based on memory. Yes, they remember what the smell of coffee should smell, but they really affiliate it to taste. There's 4 areas of the brain that are associated to the sense of smell. And those areas are very similar to sense of taste, and very similar within the premise of how you look at color and look at different perceptions. And so you may have one area of the brain that is registering a scent, but not the other ones. And so the intake process usually is not as accurate as we would like to see. That's something I'm working with the ministry to see if we can change that when it comes to specific taste, because losing your sense of smell and taste has a huge impact in your overall wellness. And we know that scent supports memory recall. It encourages storytelling and personal connection. It enhances participations in group activities. Caroline was actually very reluctant to work with scent therapy, and she's actually added 3 more exercise classes because how she's incorporated it and the success within her particular home. There is an emotional regulation, up to 65% reduction in anxiety and agitation, because scent after 7 sessions actually helps to re-stimulate your sense of smell. So we know with Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, you eventually lose your sense of smell. But the beautiful thing about smelling is it's usually because we don't do it. It's something that, when was the last time I asked you that you smelled your food before you ate it, or smelled your coffee before you drank it? It is just something we take for granted. We are noticing an increase in social connection, which is really the key aspect because smell impacts the limbic system, and limbic system is home to memory. We know it impacts sleep, and we know it helps with appetite. And we're actually doing a really amazing study with a group of homes with individuals who are not eating or not eating enough, because we saw a 30% increase when it came to supplement intake. So how do I do the work that I do? Adrienne does wall murals, and she provides a service specifically to help you install the color. I teach a scent therapy web-based training program. These are the staff from Baycrest. And what we do is we align this with your home's initiatives. We deliver it through, it's completely web-based. So all your staff members are included in the training. You have the license to the program. You can have as many staff as you want. We know there's a turnover of staff, and at any time they can take the training. We provide essential oil-based kits, but this is not based on smell. And I really appreciate Adrienne talking about the colors, because lavender is not calming for people with Alzheimer's. And this is the part where it's really interesting. It's actually limonene, because limonene is a raw material found in citrus oils that releases serotonin within the body. And the perception of sensory stimulation is very different than from you and I. And I learned this firsthand with my son, where his perception to smell, his perception to different things, and the impact on his brain. So we don't use diffusers. We're not scenting spaces. We work with these fabulous little scent sticks, which in the fragrance industry are blotter paper. And where the idea came is with Adrienne's murals. What a fantastic way to sit in a room that has these wonderful environments, such as the image that you saw prior of the mountains, of an outdoor experience, while you're doing either a one-on-one or you're doing a specific group session. We know that there is a 30% reduction right now, and I have a report if anyone wants it, on the homes that we're working with, of anti-anxiety medications, which is something that is really interesting and something that I know families really enjoy, knowing that we start with a wellness approach. As I said, we're addressing the loss of smell with seniors. And this is fun because they usually keep the sticks. And so in the homes that do scent therapy, you'll see seniors with sticks, and they just walk around and smell their sticks all day. They don't want to give them away, which is fun because it's paper and it's disposable. Olfaction plays a vital role in boosting appetite. When you think most of the homes, the food is not cooked in an area where the individual smell or can appreciate a home cooked meal like in a home. And so Adrienne's suggestion of using the right colors and the design principles within the dining room creates the appetite, which enhances the environment. Prior to doing scent therapy, 15 to 20 minutes, ideally half an hour, helps to establish the body's function of digestion, because the smell turns on the digestive juices, it turns on the all of the hormones in the brain that it's time to eat. And then you're using this individual the opportunity of smell, not necessarily the scent of what they're going to eat, but the smells that are just making the brain awake. And then you're adding the warm colors that are inducing appetite. Many dining rooms are not the color blue, and there's a reason for that. Fine dining would never use blue because it actually is a suppressant to eating. And so these are things that we know that when you combine these pieces together, it helps. And adding a family member to this, we have scenarios right now where we have individuals who refuse to eat. And I can think of a husband in particular who's coming in, who's doing scent therapy one-on-one with her his loved one in the dining room prior, and now she is more engaged in eating lunch with him. A tactic, it's simple. The staff can step away. The family now feels involved. It's an incorporation of utilizing sensory as part of a tool to enhance an issue such as appetite. So what is next? If there are any questions, Adrienne is monitoring the chat. But your long-term home may have some murals, and it may have colored doors. It may have implemented certain colors. There may be some questions you have regarding the psychology of color, and there are tools and resources that we can help you and provide. I know on the list of individuals who signed up, there are a few of my clients on this call today who already do scent therapy, who have completed the program. It's a 6-month program, who've implemented it, and now they want to enhance it. If you use, for example, an area in your home that has a mural that has the color that is creating that stimulation, or as the point, sound is another option. We have adding sound to a room. That's why we did it with our fish. It is another enhancement. But one of the things that Adrienne and I are going to do is we are willing to offer you a free, no charge, a 30-minute sensory consultation with the two of us with your home via Zoom. If you want to talk about specific questions you may have, you may want to bridge the gap between these programs. We're very dedicated to our work, and we're very dedicated to the care of individuals. And from our experience from going to various homes, we're seeing a consistency. And we'd like to talk to you about the space, the room, the size, the colors. We'd like to talk to you if there's a specific budget. When it comes to training, the funding is already available in Ontario in the nursing envelope. So you've already received the funding for wellness. And if you're budgeting towards a project, this is an opportunity where maybe you can speak and decide that you want to dedicate certain areas, or dedicate one room, or start working on a sensory recreation therapy room, and what would it look like. I come across scent free all the time. This is not new to me. So I also have a webinar or a YouTube channel that talks about how do we update your scent policy. That may be one obstacle you're facing. When I was working with one of the hospitals, it was a challenge. And we got through it because I follow occupational health standards, and we are not ever going to do anything in a way that is going to harm anybody. And that is one part of the training that I take a lot of pride with, is everything is research driven and everything is based on chemistry. And not every smell that you experience in a spa is something that you want to put in a diffuser in your home. And I have seen that. I have seen that there's some unpleasant aromas in some homes. And so someone goes out and buys a diffuser on Amazon and decides that they love the smell of lavender, and it becomes overwhelming. This is not that. In fact, I want to teach you responsibly how to use it, but also how to use it with color, how to use it with rec therapy, how to incorporate it within your day-to-day programs, either one-on-one or in group sessions, and also for your staff. Adrienne, you talked about and you have much more experience than I do right now. Why don't you share your experience with just the public and those downtime rooms and why people use murals?
Well, within the care homes, it's hard to pinpoint one benefit because there's so many, there's so much research about it. That's what I was saying. I wrote a blog talking about all the different ways that murals can help. And it's not just color therapy, like what we're talking about today, but it's for wayfinding. It's, whatever your problem is in your home, there's usually something visually that can help. So I wrote a blog. It talks all about the benefits, all the different case uses. We do door wallpaper to help residents sort of navigate to their bedroom easier using different colors on the doors, and just navigating through the home. So there's a lot of different ideas, but probably going to the blog is the best option to find all of the ideas, the decorating ideas. It's got all the photos of the murals, the wallpaper murals that we've put in homes over the years. And it's also backed by all the science. So you can find all the links to the scientific studies. Yeah, and it helps so much. It gives me such a great feeling going to work every day, knowing that I'm helping staff and residents and also making the families of the residents feel comfortable knowing that their family member is in a home that cares enough to implement these changes.
Well, one of the things we spoke about, and I have had this conversation before when it comes to Montessori learning and children. There's reasons in the butterfly unit. I'm in the region of Peel, and that is a huge part of Peel Memorial and the hospital is the butterfly premises. Emotional based care, using color, using senses. How do you connect, especially when you have nonverbal communication? And that is a big part of this process because the sensory stimulation is very different for, as I said, you and I. I've seen really bright colors, but by the time those perceptions are muted in an individual of dementia, it is not the color that we see. It's not what we would have. And I just did, as I said, a report for a series of homes. And one of their biggest faults of doing scent therapy is I could not get a lot of the staff to get away from their favorite smells. It became a personal bias that what they use in their home to make their home feel good, they were using, but that's not the science. And this is what we work on really hard because there is only specific smells they either create or, to the point with Adrienne, with color, they stimulate or they calm down. And this is where the premise of aromatherapy, with all these outrageous claims on how it does all this stuff, it's really not what our focus is. And so our whole goal is to work with you, to help you. We had a wonderful opportunity to spend the day at the trade booth talking and brainstorming because both of us are quite passionate. And we've really enjoyed building this webinar for you. And finally, this is how you reach us. These are QR codes. There's opportunities to contact us. You can send us an email. If you want us to work with you, please let us know. We're more than willing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open up the floor because I'm going to ask you to take your sensory stick and smell it and let's maybe have a bit of a conversation with what do you see anything? Do you smell anything? Do you notice anything in particular that from your scent stick? Is there anything? Oh, I'm sorry. There's a question that popped up from Julie. Are there colors that would reduce appetite?
I made the assumption that a cooler color would suppress. I actually, all my research has always been around how to increase appetite because these are the problems that we're finding in the homes. But I've actually never researched if there is a color that suppresses appetite. I know that you mentioned, Tracy, cooler colors, and that was my assumption, but I didn't want to put it in the chat in case that's not where the science goes. So I did mention that I will pull the science out and find that, and I can respond over to Julie
Sure.
afterwards.
I can share in the design world. There's never been a Michelin star or a Michelin star, Michelin restaurant chef that would ever use blue in fine dining, especially turquoise, especially pale blue, especially darker royal blue has accents, and I've seen that, and that is something that is in from a luxury standpoint, especially royal blue. But I do know that is a huge part. Now, I see some descriptions coming up. My scent reminds me of a flower shop. Mine too has a strong floral scent. Thank you. One of the notes that you're picking up is mimosa, which is a really fascinating smell. And it is, and the other part that you're feeling, the clean and floral, They're the water notes, which is really interesting because if you smelled the scent, you would not think of a rose. You would not think of jasmine because those are what we call head aromas. And they're very different, tuberose, different raw materials. These scents come from the ocean, and mimosa or a water lily, they would sit on top of the water. And that's where the melon, yeah, that's a light green. That's actually really good. It's weird. It's not weird. It's not weird. Please don't ever say it's weird. One of the best things about this, which I love, is the vocabulary to smell is so different and it is so unique. And you are picking up a melon note technically, but you wouldn't know it. And it's not like a watermelon that we would eat, but it's what we call a soft green note. And so I'm really pleased that you are engaged with the smells. The Adrienne, you gave the mural, correct? You gave the fish mural. We sent out the fish mural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So you have the fish mural. That is a sample of the quality of the paper that she works with. Does anyone have any other questions? Is there anything we can assist you with? Is there
I
any?
was actually curious why people are attending the webinar today, what they were hoping to learn, and if there was something that we didn't cover.
Oh, yeah, great. Does anybody want to jump in on that? Is there anything you were hoping for? This is new to us. We are trying to meet your needs and we are trying to figure out what we can do to help you. I've had an incredible personal experience in the past 90 days with my sister in long-term care. She was independent, living on her own, and she doesn't have scent therapy in her home. And it is a big disconnect for her. And so I'm learning what other things we can do until I can work with her on this. But is there anything in particular? Is there something that maybe you're looking for? I will share with you two case scenarios, best case scenarios using sound. We have a home in particular who does a drumming circle, and they bring in someone with big indigenous drums, and not a kettle drum, but more like a leather cloth drum. And that drum is what is a low vibration. Well, the interesting part to smell is based on vibration. Dr. Luca Turin is one of the researchers, and Linda Buck was one of the researchers who won the Nobel Peace Prize on how we smell. We actually don't smell through a molecule. That's why allergies are very interesting. And it's vibration. We actually smell through vibration. And so when we smell through vibration, it's very similar to how the body hears. The hearing is vibration. And so this particular home has the drum, and we use low vibrational scents with the sound. And this is part of their therapy. And it's actually turned into an hour session where they're doing drumming and passing around smells, and it is lowering, it's an engagement aspect, and it's very successful in that particular home. Adrienne, you have a question come up? Says,
I am. Yeah, Donnie said, looking for ideas that would benefit the residents, but just questioning the color of the dining room right now. And like we offered in the webinar, we're happy to jump on that Zoom consultation. It's free for 30 minutes. And we can, even you can take us around the dining room. We can have a look virtually and see the colors and the design and talk about, updating the colors, and then also how scent can pair with the color and hopefully help your residents.
yeah, that's something we're more than welcome to do. I've noticed there is not there's in some of the homes I've been to, a lot of beige, a lot of soft colors. Some homes are in the updating process. Some are being certified through the butterfly model unit. There are things that are happening. I noticed in one home in particularly that had an extensive memory care that we do work with scent therapy. They had artificial flowers, and those artificial flowers were in boxes, and they had it positioned in front of a mural. And I know I've gone through Adrienne's books. She has the mural of a flower shop. And so the flower shop was behind, the artificial flowers were in front. And 2 or 3 residents in particular would go and put the flowers together and make bouquets and carry the flowers around with them. That's tactile, that's touch and visual. So that is another way of utilizing some of the things you have. Some of you may do sound therapy. You may want to move your sound therapy session to an area if you have a room that has murals or colors that are either stimulating or calming. But if you're doing an exercise stimulation in a room that is really kind of dull and boring and calm, you're not going to get the maximum results. And so that was one of the things that, with the recommendation that came from the client that I was working with, Caroline, we used scent therapy with their physiotherapist who came in to do chair yoga, and they changed the room that was more stimulating. It was actually tangerine in color. And we matched it with citrus notes because we know limonene creates, oh, actually it wasn't citrus notes, it was rosemary, peppermint, and eucalyptus, because we know those 3 scents stimulate the brain and they stimulate the frontal cortex. And so this was something that was really important because she was having people not really wanting to participate and engage. We took it one step further, and she would do scent therapy where the PSW would walk around to individuals and say, okay, we are actually going to be doing yoga. It's yoga time, and associated the scent to the activity, which was reinforced by the individual doing the activity, and then the sound as well as the color. And now she has 3 or 4 activities that she can't actually keep up because everyone really, really enjoys the outcomes and the environment. That is a simple way. I've done things with gardening. A lot of you already have gardening programs. We incorporate the smell. How do you rub it on your hands? Some of you have probably in this heat have created herb gardens. What do you do with the harvest? We'll teach you. And we'll teach you how to incorporate the smell with the tactile. If you did that in an environment where you had those murals of earth in an outdoor environment, it taps into what Adrienne was referencing, where it now becomes an outdoor experience and you're inside. And you're doing something that's not necessarily adding more cost to your day-to-day recreation programs, but it's just doing it in a different way. So we have tons of ideas. That's what we are. We are entrepreneurs, innovators, and creatives, and that's what we do. And we are more than willing to help you in any way we possibly can. It's 10:02. I want to say thank you very much from both of us. Both of our websites have quite a bit. Follow us on LinkedIn. Adrienne is Pinterest, so she's got a lot of visuals. I do a lot of blogging differently through Facebook and LinkedIn, but we will follow through with you with how to reach us, and we will follow through with this link so you can see or share the video in the future. If anybody has any more questions before we leave, please let us know. But thank you. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome, Emma. Thank you for attending. I want to say I really appreciate this opportunity. Adrienne, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for attending. This was my first webinar, so thank you for being kind and gentle with me. And I hope that you got some value out of it, that we were able to share at least one nugget that you guys can take back to your homes and implement and make people's lives better.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, everybody. I want to say stay cool, enjoy yourself, and if you have any questions, we are available for you. Enjoy. Take care.
Bye.